Ladies and gentlemen, back in the building for another reaction. Back in the building reacting to conversation between Van Lathan and ADAM22 on the No Jumper platform, in which Van Lathan calls Adam a white devil in a heated exchange. And we're going to get right into it. But before we get into it, please hit that like and subscribe button. Please leave your comments, whether it's love, whether it's hate. I don't really care. Just as long as you leave a comment, I don't care. Let's get right into it. As you already know, ADAM22 is not well liked by everybody, especially by, I would say, like majority of his, I guess you could say, black percentage of the black audience are not in favor of him because of exploitation and so on and so forth, so we're about to get right into it.
Adam, I'm concerned about you, bro.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I figured this was going to be some sort of intervention.
It's an Adamvention that's happening right now.
I'm doing better than ever.
How are you doing better than ever, Adam?
Mentally, I feel strong. I feel fortified.
Right.
On the mic, doing what I was born to do, I feel more confident and full of vigor than I've ever felt before.
Right.
I'm feeling good.
You're feeling good. Adam, I'm concerned about you, bro. I'm concerned that, like, you really been on some white devil lately, man.
What moments in the No Jumper cinematic universe got you to that conclusion?
See, No Jumper cinematic universe. I actually feel like I came up with that. Because, like, I feel like I was so into the No Jumper verse, the No Jumper cinematic universe, because you got your whole multiverse, but
you're right.
Probably not true.
Nope.
And I really feel like he's about to get into the, I believe it is when Richard's, the alt-right guy was on No Jumper, and of course, his co-hosts had problems with that, and they didn't show up for that interview or anything. And I believe that Van Lathan was actually supposed to be a part of this, be a part of that panel, but he rejected to do it. Yeah. So far, I believe I know where he's going with this.
No, but there was a moment where I realized that, like, Andrew Schultz was very invested in what was going on here, and then there was a moment where I realized you were really paying attention, but to like a way more serious level than what Andrew Schultz
Every
knew.
clip, every interview during the height of the Jumperverse, because really the Jumperverse now is much like the MCU, because the MCU started and they built their whole thing up. Then they had Avengers Endgame, where everyone fought. And then some people left the MCU, and some people, now we got new heroes.
For the record, never seen a single Marvel film ever.
Well, I can tell you ain't got no imagination. You all, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't look like you would have that type of fun. That's too
I hate
wholesome.
those movies. I've tried to watch them a few times. I don't get it.
That's probably too wholesome fun for you. You probably out there, you want to out there with 3 legs, and that's probably your idea of fun.
Real.
I
can't.
Well, so what's a real movie then?
I don't know. I don't watch a lot of movies.
You don't watch a lot of movies. Okay, so
Really
like I said, you like
documentaries.
You like a different type of fun.
Yeah. It needs to be real for me to get invested in it.
Like you like going down. You probably like tonight, Lena. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put flashlights on our head and we're gonna go down Skid Row and just like chill around and see what we can see.
I have very low risk tolerance at this point in my life. I would never do something like that.
Yeah. Let me come back to the white devil.
They'll eat me alive down
So
there.
this is my thing, bro. You was always on your cool white boy, right? And the cool white boy was working. Now I'm looking at you, and it seems like you wilding a little bit, bro.
But what got you to that conclusion?
So a couple of things. Number one, the Ruger thing was bad, bro. That was bad. How did he go?
He's a grimy GD, that one.
See, you throwing out people's gangs. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Like, when it comes to like the street stuff, it's really a turn off to see him like play that up or even ask questions about that. It's just like bro, it's really cringe at times. When you start to ask, like, people who are in sets and repping gangs or whatever about their ops, about anything that has to do with, like, gang culture, versus like them being musicians and asking them questions about music. This is kind of like what I said with the Joe Budden video where Joe Budden is more, they're more on a basis of music versus, trying to amp up some sort of controversy within the interview. But as I stated in that video, Joe Budden kind of shares the Joe Budden podcast shares a sort of similarity with No Jumper. But Joe Budden would never go as far as like having guests on. And I mean, he never really, as far as I know, from the time I've been watching Joe Budden, he never really liked guests on his show anyway. So, but it's just telling of having like confrontational content to perpetuate a culture of conflict. That's really what No Jumper is predicated on.
Gotta keep it 1,000.
This is the new Adam where you gang banging and you
No. I'm not gangbanging.
calling out, saying he's a grimy
Are you
GD
serious?
is a little bit. Why?
He knows.
I know, but why? When he was here and he said straight up, for somebody that comes from Chicago, because we did hip hop homicides and I was there in Chicago seeing how things go. When he said he did not want to talk about beef, why did you press him? It almost looked like you wanted.
Did you watch the interview?
I did watch the whole thing.
Right. How many gang-related or op-related questions do you really feel like I asked during that?
Not that many,
Yeah, like 1 or 2.
but he asked for 0, so why couldn't you oblige him?
Right, that's insane. If I had actually took him at his word right there, I would have probably just said like, all right, you could just drive back to Vegas and not do this interview, because Lil Durk, one of the biggest rappers, definitely the biggest rapper of Chicago, but one of the biggest rappers in America, had just done ADAM22 podcast, one of the bigger hip hop podcasts, and in that, one of the premier questions that got clipped and put on Act's YouTube channel was, why or how did you feel about Kanye doing this album and putting you and Ruga
Word.
on the same thing, inviting you to the same party, the same show, etc. And Lil Durk had like a pretty involved answer where he actually acknowledged Ruga by name for I think maybe the first time ever, or at least for in many years. And to me, that was just an obvious question I had to ask Ruga. And we actually had a pretty decent conversation about that, because that is just like the most obvious thing that you would ever ask Ruga. And even Ak hit me up after like laughing, saying like, did Ruga seriously think you weren't going to ask that question? Because he said that he would have based the entire interview around that question because it's such an obvious question. So my thing is like, if you're going to be
Yeah,
someone
but
like Ruga, who
there's a
goes
difference
through
between
some
academics and
Lil Durk's
you, though.
friends and family members on every single song.
Y'all get what I mean?
Probably
Like,
50%
there's a
of the
difference,
songs.
bro.
You can't seriously think that you're going to come in and do an interview and not get asked about the most high-profile rapper from Chicago who just discussed you at length on another very big hip-hop podcast. Now, the thing that I fucked up is that Ruga pulled me aside and had that conversation with me of saying, like, I don't know if I really like that episode. But his reason for saying that he didn't like it was he just said he felt like maybe his energy wasn't on point. He didn't say, you asked me too many op-related questions. That narrative started later. Now, what I should have said in that moment was like, okay, I'm going to hit you back because I thought that it was a really good interview and I think that we should drop it. What I did instead was I forgot and I just dropped it anyway, because to me, I like the interview was good and there was just almost nothing that like that narrative, the op narrative,
Stop
that
lying
caught me
to
by
me,
surprise.
Adam.
He didn't
Adam.
say that to me beforehand.
Adam.
And when you watch it, I
Adam.
barely asked him about anything. It would not have even made sense for him to say that was the reason he didn't want it to drop.
So listen, this is why it's the white devil Adam.
He legit like the crazy thing about this is that he's legitimately just sliding his like he legitimately is like pushing accountability away from him and just basically calling bluffs in interviews and like basically just provoking reaction and a sort of manipulative type of thing, potentially putting people who he's interviewing in a sort of position of like more danger than they already are in. You know what I'm saying? Like with the opposition that they are rivaling, which is crazy to me. And it's like you just laugh about it like it's nothing. And listen, this is not a thing of me putting it on ADAM22. I'm putting this on any interviewer who does that. Any person who interviews a rapper, interviews somebody who's tied to gang culture and wants to just sit there and ask them gang culture questions versus music, which is what got them away, which is for the most part what got them away from trying to do anything that has to do with that gang culture and trying to get themselves away from that, you're lame. You're like you're thrown off. Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you even bring your why would you belittle journalism by making yourself poach for beef? Poach for by asking somebody questions about somebody that they have problems with, or maybe their homeboys have problems with, and it's not even really seriously any beef, but you poaching them and asking them questions. It's like it gets more and more extended into more than it needs to be, and then oh yeah, let's just say something bad happens to that person, like something bad happens to that person a week after, or they go to jail for doing something to their op because of the interview. ADAM22 wouldn't even look at ADAM22 probably wouldn't even bat an eye on that. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with Vlad. Same thing with academics, man.
What you just gave right there is a completely salient, obviously
Logical response.
But you left some things out.
You know what we call that? We call that standing on business.
There you go. Standing on business. Standing on business. Look at you now. See?
Standing on business.
Standing
man.
on business now is what you're doing. Okay. Let me
Stood
tell you.
on it.
Let me ask you a question.
It almost feels like a caricature, like what he's like the way he's talking right now, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you.
I had
I'm not gonna lie to you.
op-related questions that I did not ask him because he said that, but the Lil Durk one was like, you gotta ask that.
But hold on though. So that's the thing. The thing is this: everything that you just said, as somebody who interviews people all the time, people in media, nobody's gonna disagree with you. That's like, you know how many interviews have been pitched to me, and somebody has said, either it be a label person or a PR person, hey, don't ask about this. And I'll say, okay, well, I don't need to have this person on. Like, if I can't ask about that, if you're going to come on here and I can't ask about that, I don't need to have this person on.
Which I understand that, but still, it's like
that you won't do it, and then
you still turn around and do it.
But he did not specifically say he didn't want to talk about that. He just said
that's what he
did.
says.
And he's a liar. He did not say that he wanted me to do an interview that was entirely free of any beef-related questions. He just said that he didn't want to make the whole interview like that. So for anyone, I challenge everybody watching this to go watch it and tell me if you think that that was an overtly beef-based interview.
So
it might have been the interview the least beef-related interview that Ruga has ever done in his life. In fact, I would bet money that it was the least beef-related, op-related interview he's ever done in his life.
What does that even matter, bruh?
That
what does that
he's
matter?
lying, then that's a different thing. But he says, hey, I didn't want. So there's 2 points. He says, hey, you didn't want to talk about any beef. Then he says,
he never said he didn't want to talk about any beef. He just said, I don't want to do a ton of those questions.
Okay.
So I asked him about the most mainstream, well-known beef that he has addressed 10,000 times in songs.
After that, you conveniently forgot.
Right.
That's not even halfway home. It's like 5 inches.
I
There's
should've
no
called
way
him
he-
and told him, yo, I'm dropping it anyway.
Okay. What's with
Same end result.
What's with the new bravado? You feel different? You feel
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
You feel different, right? Because you out here talking your shit. You telling people to
He's
slide.
yeah, he's
doing all
definitely
that.
telling people,
Because
daring
you go
people to
through
come
this time
up.
period in your life where you're listening to rap music and you're hearing all these dudes talk about what they're going to do, etc. And I kind of had this epiphany. All I got to do
He's
is call them.
using the logic of Charleston White at this point right now, honestly, because like that's the same exact MO of somebody like Charleston White and how he's been daring people to like do stuff to him, and you know what I'm saying, all this security and having weapons and all of that stuff. Like, he's in the idolization or mindset of Charleston White and how he's been daring people. He's seeing how that's going with him, and you know, he's pretty successful and nobody's really touching him or anything like that. So I feel like that's the same thing ADAM22 has going on here. He's like, man, y'all ain't really who y'all say y'all are. Y'all ain't really gangsters like that. You know, if you were like, I'm daring you to do something, and it's like, you know, yeah, that's what I feel like it is. You know, you know, it's that spirit and mindset of like, yeah, y'all ain't gonna touch me, you ain't gonna do nothing. I'm gonna call, I got weapons, I got security, and I'm gonna call the police.
Bluff. And they're not going to do anything. So I called multiple bluffs, and I raked the chips in. I'm a poker player. I raked the chips in because the reality is that these are logical entities out here who, for the most part, behave logically, and there is not enough insanity lurking around in their brain for them to come do something physically to me. Now, if they would like to, I'm here.
They're going to.
Sure, sure.
The
Come
more,
do it. Sure.
What I'm saying is, the more you invite that, the more that energy
Exactly.
gets invited. The
You
more
can't
it's
be
not even gonna
surprised
be
when
so
it
one of those
actually
guys.
does
If you
happen.
make yourself a trophy,
You know,
somebody's gonna compete for you.
that's a fact.
Here I am.
That's a
Standing on
fact.
business, Van.
It's
I ain't
funny,
worried
but
about that
it's
shit.
funny, but it's funny, but reality is real, man.
So Adam, what
Reality is real,
by the
bro.
way,
And then they run and hide their hands after they fucking, like, after I call the bluff. It's like, oh, well, we're not going to, nobody's want to risk their freedom. Nobody's going to do anything. Okay, I'm not even talking about Ruger right now. I'm just talking in
But
general.
not even Ruger,
Right.
But because I've just seen you, like, it just seems.
Okay, I see what he's talking
like
about. He's talking
you're
about
running
AD
around
and
with a different type of battery in
T-Rail
your right
and
now.
It's not even
all
a
that
battery that's in my back. If there is a battery, if there was any software installed in me, it's just realizing, like, you have nothing to be worried about.
Right, because
You're good.
everybody's pussy.
I'm not saying everybody's pussy for sure. There's some real ones out there.
Hey,
Yeah,
I just don't know that I'm beefing with them.
you don't think who are you beefing with?
yeah, okay.
Nobody really,
So
because
if you're not
nobody
beefing-
doing nothing.
So if you're not beefing with anybody, then you're not saying that anybody's pussy. But
That's
if you're saying
crazy.
that, like, you're not, if you're saying that you have,
You can't
if
be a
you're into it with
publication.
somebody
You can't
and
be
they're
a
not gonna do
publication
anything, then
that
that's a
you
direct
can.
challenge.
He cannot be a publication in California and thinking that he can just talk this way. That's the thing that's like really like blowing my mind. I'm like, there's no way you can be in an area where gangbanging was like invented and thinking you can just talk this way. That is just amazing. Like, everybody can't protect everybody. I think that's what we lose sight of every single day. Like, your words have like the power of the tongue, and your words they can have damaging effects to the wrong person, basically. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, I can't believe he even remotely talks like this in an area where there are 1,000 different gangs, 1,000 different incarnations of the Bloods and the Crips. It just be blowing my mind whenever I hear him talking. He just be talking like big, gigantic, like he's just the most untouchable man on earth or something. Every person who rolls that dice and plays that game is a player, and players get, what I'm saying? That's what I think, man.
Them to do something. This is what I'm saying. Forget about all of that, because I'm not a street nigga, and I don't think that you are either. Are you a street nigga? Because something might change.
No, sir.
You're not.
I can't tell. I can't tell the way he talks. I cannot tell. But yeah, man, that is the end of the video. Y'all go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and I'm gonna be back with more videos.